After nearly a 2-year layoff from the sport, Mikey Garcia entered the ring on Saturday night against the relatively unknown Spaniard, Sandor Martin. What occurred during the fight was nothing short of shocking. Garcia seemed to be a half step behind Martin the entire fight, and Sandor was able to seize control early on and never relinquish. Mikey, the heavy betting favorite, is a former 4-division world champion, and while Saturday was thought to be a mere formality, Garcia's future in the sport is very much in doubt. Now, Barack, in 2014, I'm not sure if you remember, but Mikey took a 2-year layoff.
2.5 years.
Yeah, like 2.5. Yeah. In 2016, he came back to fight Elio Rojas, and people were in doubt before that fight. I mean, with him, it was contractual issues with Top Rank and Barbaram at the time. He wanted to fight. He was still young. He came back explosive like he never left in against Rojas, Barack. A lot of people are saying that Mikey doesn't have the hunger in the sport. What are your thoughts overall on the fight?
It could be a whole bunch of things, you know, maybe gaining weight in between fights, an excessive amount of weight in between fights is different at 33 going on 34 than it was back then in 2016 when he came back into the game and won 5 in a row. You never really know, but I don't want to do that this fight. I don't want to say, hey, what did Mikey do wrong? I want to say, what did Martin do right? And we seen what he did right. I said before the fight, he's a mover and he's also left-handed. He knows how to box, he knows how to counterpunch, and that's what he did. Now, Mikey is a counterpuncher, but he's also a guy who could walk you down. He walked down plenty of his fights, you know, to get the stoppage. He usually knocks guys down, you know, and I think that's what he was expecting. I think that it wasn't a good thing to come back after all of that time off and do a 10-rounder when you're fighting somebody who can move like that, because you need as many rounds as you can to get to him, to break him down, to get to that body. And that's something that probably was a difference too. But then again, by that 10th round, if there was 2 more rounds, it doesn't look like it would have been any different.
I agree with you, Barack. I mean, he's a great stalker. He has a reputation of being a big puncher. Now, here's what I noticed in the fight. Martin was very careful early on in the fight, meaning he was boxing, but he was moving a lot, and Mikey was moving forward. I think it got to a point early in that fight that he felt Mikey's power, and he got more comfortable in that ring and got into a rhythm in that ring and said, okay, this guy can't really hurt me. Maybe he doesn't hit as hard as people say, so I'm just gonna cruise and stay in pocket sometimes, but he moved most of the time. Mikey just could never get to him. I think that, you know, I'm not in Mikey's camp. I don't really know anybody personally in Mikey's camp, so I don't want to say the guy doesn't have the eye of the tiger, so to speak, anymore. You only can judge it on what you see on the outside. See, Mikey, since the Errol Spence fight, you know, he's been copping expensive cars, horses, kind of living the life, kind of enjoying the fruits of his labor, which there's nothing wrong with that. When you work and as hard as you do to get to that point in this sport and make millions of dollars, I mean, you want to live your life. But there are fighters like Andy Ruiz, hence, you know, I'm not saying that he's there either, Barack, but maybe those guys reach the point where, all right, I worked my whole life for this damn sport. Now let me just live it. I don't want to go back to the trenches like I did before I won a world title. I mean, I can see Mikey being in that space right now. No disrespect.
Yeah, but that's still speculation, and I guess it's a good speculation, especially when even years ago, before he was probably rich, his family said that this is something that he doesn't necessarily love, like he's just very, very talented, but didn't really put his whole heart into it. But like you said, when he came back in 2016, he was on fire, and we thought this is what it is. And then I asked him when he was on our show, and he says he does have the passion. It's just that in 2019, though, he's been trying to get that Pacquiao fight, and then the pandemic happened. And then he came back. I mean, we came back to a little bit of normalcy, and he wanted to Regis Prograis fight. So he's just been holding out for big fights. He's trying to say that it wasn't anything else. He's just been holding out. And like I said, Martin fought a really good fight. But you figure a guy that fought like that, the only difference is he was left-handed, but you figure a guy that fought like that still should have been walked down, and eventually either hurt or stopped by a guy like Mikey Garcia. Look what he did to Robert Easter. You know, is it just that Martin was just that good? We're going to have to see in a rematch, because I think a rematch will answer basically any question that we have, because Martin is going to probably fight the same style that he fights in every fight. And if there's a different outcome, maybe all of these speculations are correct about Mikey, and maybe he just corrected it.
Yeah, but as far as making adjustments, I mean, he didn't make any adjustments in the fight. So can he make adjustments in a rematch for it to be any different? And I do want to give credit to Sandor Martin for fighting an excellent fight and sticking to the game plan. He had a game plan, he executed, and obviously it paid dividends. Now, you mentioned Regis Prograis earlier, Barack. What is in store for Mikey, if not a rematch? I mean, he wanted Regis, but Regis says, nah, dog, I don't want to fight you anymore. In other words, that ship sailed. Right. What do you want to see Mikey do next if there's no rematch?
That's just it. Nothing. Like, you better not do nothing. Like, no, he has to come back and rematch Sandor. What does that say if he does not rematch Sandor? I could not even understand any other fight Mikey would have. I'm sure nothing is going through his head right now except I need to get back in there and fight him, unless he's saying, I want to retire. You know what I mean? I think that, first of all, to me, it was a unanimous decision. You had one judge scored it 95-95. That was Zachary Young. But when you do the research, Zachary Young also, he's from LA. He's also a good referee. He refereed one of his Mikey Garcia's amateur fights, so maybe he knows him. Gave him the benefit of the doubt. Who knows?
Yeah, that's his boy, man. They be out there, you know. So
chill. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how he saw 5 rounds.
Right.
But I saw him get outboxed. I saw Mikey Garcia get outboxed. If you listen to the post-fight interview with Chris Mannix, and just the way he was talking even afterwards in the locker room with Ellie Setback, he said, you know, he pressed the fight, he made the fight. He never said, I outpunched him. He never said, I landed more shots. And that's the thing. Yes, you're going forward. Yes, you're the one pressing the fight, but that's not important.
Yeah,
it's about who's landing shots, you know. And
but you're not gonna count your shots after as you fight. So nobody
but come
really
on,
knows
when a fighter thinks they won, they said, I'm the one that landed the better shots. I'm the one that landed the more shots. They say stuff like that. I landed the harder shots, more flush shots. All of those things make sense. Now, I think he knows that he was getting outlanded. He was getting countered, and Sandor fought a good fight. But I think he feels in his heart he should have won. Even at the end, he was raising his hand. In my mind, I think he was probably thinking, which I was thinking, you know, they're just going to give the fight to Mikey because there's bigger fish to fry afterwards, like Felix Sturman and Oscar De La Hoya.
Now, that would have been a bad look, and I don't know.
But we're used to that in this sport, right?
I don't know why Mikey really had any inclination that he won that fight. I mean, Sandor Martin outboxed him, like you said, throughout the fight. I mean, Mikey was coming forward. He was trying to win, to his credit. You know, there was a desire there. I seen it in him. He was throwing hard punches. But, you know, he just got outboxed. So he definitely did win that fight.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he didn't say, hey, you know what, I was off for 20 months. You know, it was ring. He was just like, nah, there was no ring rust, so he felt good in there. You know, maybe he could have went to the body more. I don't know. Maybe he could have feinted more, because he did try to feint. And Sandor was going for the feints. Sandor just fought an excellent fight. Following one of the more unexpected results of the year, it's more than fair to lead the show with Garcia Sandor. However, this next topic could have easily taken up the whole show. Let's break it down in chronological order. First, on Friday afternoon, Ryan Garcia announced that he suffered a significant hand injury, forcing him to pull out of the all but officially announced fight against Jojo Diaz. We wish him well in his recovery. The focus quickly shifted to Jojo Diaz fighting the WBC lightweight champion Devin Haney. Here is Haney and Eddie Hearn with Chris Mannix during the broadcast on Saturday night.
He's my mandatory. He doesn't have a fight or opponent. I don't have an opponent. It all aligns. We sent him an offer today, so we'll see what happens.
Eddie, do you think you've done as much as you can to get JoJo Diaz in the ring with Dazn Haney?
I mean, you called it. You know, he's chasing these guys. You know, you've got a WBC world champion here. You've got guys who are taking final eliminators to fight him. You know, and then he gets offered the Ryan Garcia fight for a lot of money. We stepped up to the plate. We offered him the same amount of money. No excuses. The only reason you turn down the fight is because you know you can't beat Dazn Haney. Right, so let's just get this straight with media, with fans. These guys, no one's calling the name of Dazn Haney. Dazn against JoJo Diaz is a great fight, and JoJo's a fighting man. He's going to look terrible if he doesn't accept this fight. The same number that he agreed to fight Ryan Garcia. What is going on? The only way you do not accept this fight is if you do not believe you can beat this man.
Now, JoJo responded with this tweet. I'm going to fight Dazn Haney in December, y'all, I promise. Like Ryan Garcia, he hasn't been tested, and I'll give Dazn his first L. Wow, now there's a lot more to unpack, but let's stop right here and let's discuss this. I thought that was more eventful than the fight. You know, the whole crowd was into it. It was great that these fighters was there. It was great that JoJo's responding, but which fight makes sense right now? Is it Dazn Haney and JoJo or Dazn Haney waiting? I think, hey, just go ahead, make this fight. And I think one thing Eddie Hearn said that makes sense, because I don't think that JoJo doesn't want to fight Dazn Haney. I think he wanted the fight that he thought, you know, would give him more money and more recognition. I think what he said was, if he doesn't take it now, then he's going to look bad. What do you think?
I totally agree with Eddie on that. It would be a very bad look for JoJo Diaz if he indeed was offered the same amount of money to fight Ryan Garcia, who, you know, people claim is the bigger star, is the more popular fighter, so that would be the more lucrative fight. So if you're getting the same amount to fight Dazn Haney, whom you've mentioned that is not as big, then it would be a very bad look if he doesn't take that fight. Now, I know he's signed to Golden Boy Promotions. He's also signed to MTK. So the management side and the promoting side have to, you know, make that fight happen. We all know that Eddie and Oscar have been throwing shots at each other as of late, more so Oscar than Eddie. So there has to be some tension there, but it's business. You know, you want your fighters to make the most amount of money. You want them to fight and have the biggest opportunity. So I don't see why this fight can't happen. And we want Ryan to get better. We want to see Ryan fight in 2022, a big fight. Well, right now, it's right there on a silver platter. Dazn has been looking for an opponent. JoJo's available. They already have bad history of going back and forth on social media with one another. There's no reason this fight shouldn't happen.
First of all, the contract is signed already with JoJo and Dazn Haney, because it was a Twitter promise. What's more legit than a Twitter promise?
Nothing.
no, nowadays that's just how it is. Like, but in reality, come on, Eddie Hearn has been in other interviews. He said, I don't think JoJo doesn't want to fight Dazn Haney. I don't think he's scared to fight Dazn Haney. So, and I agree. That's not the case. There is no other fight right now. That is the fight that makes sense. That is actually the fight he wanted until Ryan popped back in the scene, right? That's the fight JoJo always wanted, was with Dazn Haney. This is a great fight for both of them. They both have recently won really good win, and this right here would solidify them. You know, I'm still waiting to see the clash between Dazn Haney and Teofimo Lopez, you know, but this right here is great. JoJo Diaz stepped up to 135, proved so many people wrong by fighting Fortuna, and now he's the interim champ anyway. He deserves a shot at this title right now. I think this is perfect for the lightweight division. All right, also, Dazn Haney was not the only lightweight champion in Fresno, California this Saturday. Teofimo Lopez was also present, which led to this lengthy rant between both fighters and their fathers. Moments later, then things calmed down a little bit. Both fighters joined Chris Mannix and Sergio Mora on Beyond the Bell.
Why has a fight between Teofimo Lopez and Dazn Haney not happened at this point?
Because of him.
Up to them.
Because of him. He don't want to make the fight happen.
Wow.
I never said no to any fight. I fought Vasily Lomachenko when you guys had the opportunity to fight him, and y'all never took it. So please, don't tell me that.
So how did I get the WBC belt?
I took less money.
How did I get the WBC belt?
I took less money.
Tell me how I got the WBC belt.
You fought a guy that was 58th ranked.
Tell me how.
Not even the top 50.
Okay.
Not even the top 50.
So how did I get the WBC belt?
Look it up on BoxRec. Who the freak is that guy that he's talking about?
Exactly.
Who?
Thank you.
You never fought anybody.
Okay.
Ever.
So how did I get the belt?
Okay,
how did I get the belt?
It is true.
How did I get the belt?
How?
Because Loma didn't want to fight me. Same way you don't want to fight me. Same way you don't want to fight me.
Nobody want to fight you.
You don't want to fight me.
That's
want to fight me. You don't want to fight me.
Language.
You don't want to fight me. You don't want to fight me.
Take control of your interview. You have a fight. You have a fight against George Kambosos. You have a fight on December 3rd, hopefully against Jojo Diaz.
For sure.
Do you believe that the fight against Devin Haney will happen early next year?
It's gotta happen. I'm tired of this, dude.
We're going to make it happen on Dazn.
Let's
make it happen on Dazn.
Let's end right on that. We agree.
You heard it here.
We agree on
Dazn.
Yeah, tired.
We agree on something.
We're going to make it happen on Dazn.
I'm tired of this kid, man.
Teofimo
Lopez. Show me you're tired of me.
This was legit. You know how a lot of people say, oh man, is this stage? Is this what? Because they got both fighters there. They're just trying to build up fights. You know how sometimes a fighter comes into the ring and that's planned? This was legitimate. You hear in one of the videos you would hear senior, well, really junior, he's really a junior, and that's the trainer, his father. You would hear Junior say, hey, no, Papi, don't do nothing, Papi. Don't start it here, like because he thinking things are gonna pop off, and yeah. that's how it seemed.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know who was in charge, whether it was Chris Glanville, John McCormick, Nick Turner, whoever's idea it was to put those guys together. Kudos to those guys, because right away you knew we were going to get on an organic type of conflict there. We saw that. It's great for TV. It's great for promoting that fight for the future, right, Barack? Yes. I'll say this. I don't think either guy is afraid of fighting either guy. There's no way Teofimo Lopez is afraid of fighting Devin Haney and vice versa. I know Devin wants to fight. And I understand Devin Haney's frustration, Barack. I mean, he's wanted the big fight since Lomachenko. He's won it. He's called out, whether it was Tank, Ryan, Teofimo. He's like a guy in a cage, like just rattled up because he's not being let out for the big fights, right? The big names that people say, you know, he hasn't faced yet. He beat Linares. I thought he fought a phenomenal fight, even though he got hurt in the 11th, and people made a big deal about that. He's an elite lightweight, so I understand why he's, you know, bursting out like that, Barack. But I don't agree with him when he says that Teofimo doesn't want to fight him. I just think that you can only fight one fight at a time, and Teofimo has other things in front of him. He doesn't want to let go of the IBF belt. It's his first world title. It's when he beat Comey and knocked him out in the second round. That title is dear to him. He said it on our show. He doesn't want to let it go. He has to get through Kambosos first. I do feel, though, if Devin does fight Jojo later in the year and wins, I think that this is an amazing fight, maybe in the spring of 2022. Hopefully it happens, B.
Yeah, I think he got hurt in the 10th round, and I mean, he finished like a champ. He finished. No, I know people going to try to correct. They love when we make mistakes so they can correct us.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
It was the 10th
round. You know what I mean? So, but he finished like a champ, and I understand where he's coming from. If nobody's signing that dotted line, then obviously he's going to be saying nobody wants to fight me, and that's the way it's been looking. But guess what? We have a fight now. Jojo Diaz, that's the fight I want to see. And this is a great build-up. But guess what? These guys got to beat the guys. Let's not count our eggs before they hatch. Yeah, these guys got to beat the guys.
No, I'm saying, you're saying we have a fight. Until it's announced, I don't believe it.
Done. That fight is done. It's Twitter. It's done because it was signed on Twitter, and that's it. It's a tweet signing. You know what I mean? But yes, this is great. This kind of promotion is great. I think Kambosos is a threat, but he's probably not as big as a threat as a Jojo Diaz. You know what I mean? But he is a very good fighter. You know, Jojo Diaz got some momentum behind him, but Devin Haney is like, my God, he's hard to hit. He's very, very hard to hit, and he's very, very skillful and disciplined in that ring.